baby, bye, bye, bye. Don't wanna be a fool for you.
Oh, hey, what's up, you guys? How's it going? It's Papa, and today I wanted to showcase you guys the deck that I've been playing behind the scenes. I know I haven't uploaded in the last couple weeks, but that's just because I've been testing the new format. I say new format very lightly because we get a ban list at the end of the month, but until then, I've been testing this, and that is Live Twin Fiendsmith. Now, if you look this deck up online, you will see nothing but videos from like months ago, basically like online profiles, online combos, but you haven't actually seen anyone play this deck yet, and this deck is extremely under the radar for what it does. Basically, what it gives you is just a whole bunch of non-engine in one deck, and then as well on top of that, it gives you access to the Live Twin cards, which can access your Fiendsmith plays, which is very strong. But on top of that, I think the deck is a lot of fun, regardless of the price that you have to pay to play this deck. I mean, granted, everything else is very budget friendly as opposed to basically the engravers. But without further ado, I want to say let's just go ahead and get into the deck profile, shall we? Before we start, of course, I want to go ahead and shout out Overdose Gaming for lending me the engravers. They were a big help, and I just haven't felt like buying them yet, only because we don't know what the ban list is going to include. Now, I know that it's a new card, so odds of engraver getting banned or like getting limited is probably very unlikely, but at the same time, I don't want to take that risk just yet because, well, we've seen Konami do some crazy stuff in the past. And of course, if you like what you're watching, please go ahead and give it a subscribe, because if you subscribe, it lets me know that I'm doing something right. But of course, to start off the deck, we are on 3 copies of Live Twin Lilla. This card is very, very good. On top of that, we are playing the 3 copies of the Kiss-a-Kill as well. So essentially what these do is that they summon the other. So you go blue to summon the pink, pink summons the blue. But on top of having the 3 of each, we also are playing 1 copy of the Kiss-a-Kill Frost and 1 copy of the Lilla Treat. So essentially what these add is basically just extra bodies to where if you open up the Sunny Snitch, for example, what happens is to where if your Lilla gets stopped and it maybe it's like Effect Veiler, or if it's an Infinite Impermanence, then you can use the Sunny Snitch to add the extra copy that you're missing to get your plays going, which I did do during my last tournament, where I went normal summon Lilla, got Veilered. I ended up having to use my Sunny Snitch to search the Kiss-a-Kill Frost. The Kiss-a-Kill Frost would then summon itself, and then you would have the full Fiendsmith combo from there. And then of course it's vice versa, where if you have the Kiss-a-Kill, then you can go ahead and add the Lilla Treat, and then you can summon itself as well, and then you still have full combo. But we play 1 of each of the little ones, and then on top of that, we are on the 3 copies of Sunny Snitch with the 1 secret password. Now, arguably during the tournament, there were multiple times where I didn't have access to any Live Twin cards to get my plays going, and I think moving forward, I want to try fitting room to fit a 2nd copy of Secret Password, if not a 3rd, mainly because if you don't have any access to these cards and you have nothing but Fiendsmiths in your hand, you're going to lose. That's going to essentially do it for the Live Twin lineup. It is just the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 cards for the engine. And of course, since this is a Fiendsmith build, we are on 3 copies of Fiendsmith Engraver, as well as the 1 copy of Fabled Lurie with the 1 copy of Fiendsmith Track. So these cards are very, very good. They are essentially what the deck was missing to make this deck be somewhat viable again. Now, I will say before we get into the non-engine that this deck really does have a hard time against cards like Nibiru, cards like Evenly Match, but when we get to the non-engine, it will all make sense. You only need 1 copy of Tract because you have easy ways to search it through the engraver, of course, and then being able to just recycle this every turn is very good. And then on top of that, you don't ever need to play multiple copies of Tract because you have Griffin that you make at the end of your combo, to where if you need the Tract, you can go ahead and set itself back off of that. Now, a few of my losses during the tournament were mainly because I would open up too many copies of Engraver, or I would open up Lurie, or I would open up Tract. Basically, I only play the 5 Fiendsmith cards, but I ended up opening them a lot during the tournament, so that is kind of a downside when you're not really trying to see these cards too much, but you do kind of want to see them. So I think moving forward, I might try playing only 2 Engraver, but that's going to do it for the Fiendsmith lineup. We play 1 very small Unchained package with the 1 Abominable and the 1 Shavara. Basically, these cards make it to where you're ending on multiple forms of interruption, where you can have the 2 pops with your Live Twin monsters, or not your Live Twins, your evil monsters. And then on top of that, you get to have access to Soul of Rage, and then of course whatever hand traps you may have. But these cards are really good. Definitely think you only need 1 of each. I don't think you need any more copies of this. Maybe if Shavara was at 2, that'd be cool. Now in terms for the non-engine, it's kind of a lot because you can fit so much of it. We play 3 copies of Effect Veiler. Of course, we're playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom. We are only on 2 copies of Nibiru, 2 copies of Droll and Lockbird. It might make sense in just a second. 2 copies of Ghost Mourner, 1 copy of Ghost Ogre, 1 copy of Crow, and 1 copy of Infinite Impermanence. And then to supply all of that, we are on 3 copies of Crossout in the main deck. Now the lineup here I feel like is kind of self-explanatory, but for just in case, basically the reason behind this hand trap lineup is because I wanted to have quite a bit of diversity for my hand traps, because since you're drawing so much off of Nightmare Griffin, off of the Evil Twin cards, and then just whatever else that may come up, you basically want to be seeing as many forms of interruption as possible with this deck. And basically your end board is Griffin with the 2 twin pops every single time, and when you have that, you essentially have like up to 3 to 4 cards in hand, so if you pair it with any hand trap, it's very good. I'm also playing Mulcharmy in the side deck, so having an excessive amount of hand traps is very good for that reasoning. The reasoning behind 1 Infinite Impermanence, which may look kind of weird, because simply enough, you are going to be drawing cards during your opponent's turn with the Evil Twin Lilla, and because of, or not the Lilla, the Kiss-a-Kill, and with the Kiss-a-Kill draw, odds are you want to be drawing into something that you can use during your opponent's turn. So if you're drawing Infinite Impermanence during your opponent's turn, you're not going to be able to even use it, so it just essentially becomes a dead draw. So that's why I opted to play 3 copies of Valor in the 1 Imperm, just because I feel like Valor is much more important. And then the other ones just make sense. They're just cards that I don't really want to draw too much. So like Ogre is like really good against the like twin summoning, and then DD Crow is just really good for when you're trying to summon the twins back from the grave. Droll is just really popular in the format. You do add a lot of cards in this combo. And then of course this deck really loses to Nib, so we're just trying not to lose to Nib. But Crossout has been really good. Every time I saw Crossout, it was kind of game ending, so I definitely see that you should be playing this moving forward. But that's going to do it for the hand traps and non-engine, essentially. Rounding off the main deck, of course, we are on 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talents with the 1 Call by the Grave. I know Call by the Grave is kind of an odd one in this deck, mainly because you're trying to draw hand traps, or you're trying to have your hand traps be live during your opponent's turn. So if you called by one of them during your turn, then you happen to draw the same one, then it's kind of unfortunate, but it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. So that is 40 cards in the main deck, no more, no less. Of course, again, what I wanted to try was taking out an Engraver for maybe a second secret password, just so I can have more access to live twin cards. For the extra deck, we are on the 1 copy of Requiem. This card is very, very good. I can see this card being banned one day for how strong it actually is, but every time you resolve this card, the game's almost basically over. So definitely 1 copy of Requiem. On top of that, we are on 1 copy of Fiendsmith Sequence. I think Sequence is just very, very good. Being able to fusion summon, of course, get that extra body back is very strong. And then if you need it, then you can always add back the Engraver to add the copy Attract, whatever it may be. But Sequence is just very good as well. 1 copy of the Soul Lord of Yama. This card is very strong for being able to search Shavara, and then basically using the Shavara to pop your Soul of Rage, so that way you get to summon back the Evil Twin Link, and then you get to add back Engraver, all in the same sequence. Very, very good. On that, we are playing 1 copy of Soul of Rage. 1 copy of Muckracker, card's very good. You could arguably play the Necroquip Princess. That's what I was debating on between Muckracker and Necroquip, and I ended up choosing Muckracker, and this came up a whole lot more than Necroquip did, so I'm really glad I played this. 1 copy of Little Knight, it's mandatory. Good for you guys for getting the reprint in the next month, so very nice. We are on 2 copies of Kiss-a-Kill, 2 copies of Lilla, and then 1 copy of Trouble Sunny, and 1 copy of Nightmare Griffin to end off on all of the Link monsters. Nightmare Griffin is very strong. I mean, of course, being able to just basically floodgate your opponent is very good. And then Little Knight comes up when you have the Soul of Rage for your opponent's turn. So 10 links, or no, 12 links, I'm sorry, not 10 links. And then for non-link monsters, we play 1 Wave High King Caesar. Card came up a couple times. I don't really know how good it really is. I mean, it's great, don't get me wrong, but I only used it once, and it was fine. And then we played 1 copy of Desiree and 1 copy of Lacrima. Honestly, I never made Desiree. I can see myself cutting this card for something else. I'm not sure what just exactly yet. I mean, you could debate like access code maybe, that would probably be cool, but I honestly never summoned this once and it never really came up for me, so I think just moving forward I might cut it for something else. So that's going to do it for the extra deck. And then rounding off the deck, it's going to be the side deck. We play the brand new 3 copies of Mulcharmy Perilia. This card is very, very good. I was very shocked by how well this card performed for me. I was really thinking this card wasn't going to be all that great, but honestly, just being able to draw cards just like Max C again is basically really good. I mean, I can't really complain. My draws off of Mulch Army were very disgusting. I drew like Ash, I drew Mourner, I just kept drawing cards that interrupted my opponent when I already had the game won, and I feel really bad. I'm sorry, friend, but you had to play 3 of this. Card's very good. On top of that, I'm also sorry, but we play 3 copies of Dogwood. Don't blame me, blame the format. That's just how it is. And then we are on 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet. Card is very strong when you pair it with the Live Twins. So you have to play 3 of it, and it's just very good going second. And you can also use it going first if you wanted to, but I ended up not playing it going first because I just felt like it wasn't needed with the amount of hand traps that you're playing in the deck, so I felt like it was much better going second, especially when you can draw it off of the Perilia. It's very, very good. 1 copy of Feather Duster, just for some generic back row hate. 3 copies of Evenly Matched, of course, very strong as well. When you pair it with the Droplet, it's basically breaking the board every single time. And then my only real card for going first was 2 copies of Scolding. Basically, what you do with Scolding is you just have access to it every time. Basically, if you don't end on the Griffin lock, where you get to set, or you can basically just use the set card first, because you can set like Abominable, you can set Infinite Impermanence off of Griffin, and then you could just use those first and then have the Scolding still alive for after, which did come up. So Scolding is just very strong. But yeah, guys, that's gonna actually go ahead and do it for the deck profile. The side deck still needs a little bit of work, I will say, but for what it was, it did really good for me, so I can't really complain too much there. Other than that, I do really like this deck a lot, actually. I mean, I'm not really a super big like meta guy, and I know this isn't really like the biggest like meta deck of the format, but it is very under the radar, and I think people aren't giving it its flowers where the flowers are due, unfortunately. But I feel like maybe one day this deck will pop up in Top Cut, and then people will be scared of it because it is a very frightening deck if you don't know what you're doing against it. But other than that, deck was solid. I really liked it. We'll keep playing it moving forward. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more. And until next time, guys, this has been Papa, and we'll catch you all in my next video.